let's move over to the Arduino IDE and get started coding. Remember, if you're using the Tinkercad application, you're doing all of your code writing within the browser application. So this is just for people who are using the real hardware, but your code will look exactly the same. So starting off, let's set up our pin variables. So up at the top, I want to define my LED pin. So just like we've done before, constant integer, and we're going to call it LED pin, and it's pin 13 in my case. And now we need to define a pin for our switch. So our switch is connected to pin 2, so constant integer, switch pin, and that's number 2. Okay. In our void setup, we want to set the pin mode. So just as we've done before, pin mode, LED pin, that's an output. And then pin mode, switch pin. But this is not an output, right? Our switch is an input. So there's actually a different parameter for pin mode called input that will do all the changes on the hardware necessary to make sure that that pin is being read as an input and is not an output. So that's all we need to do to set up our pins. Next, let's get the right function for working with digital inputs. And the function we're going to be working with is called digital read. So if I pull up the digital read syntax here, we see that digital read reads the value from a specified digital pin, either high or low. So that's either a 1 or a 0. And digital read takes one parameter, which is the Arduino pin number that you want to read. And this function actually returns a value. So it returns either a high or low value. Taking a look at the example code, we see that digital read, we have our pin here as a parameter, but then we also have a variable. So val is an integer, and we assign val to the digital read. So what's happening here is the Arduino is being told to read the pin, and whatever it reads, if it reads a 5 volts, it'll be high. If it reads 0 volts, it'll be low. It'll take that value and it'll store it into the variable val. So let's use that example for our code. So we're going to make a new variable, and it's going to be an integer, and I'm just going to call it value. And that is going to, we're going to assign value to whatever digital read returns. And we want this for the switch pin, right? So we tell the Arduino to read the switch pin, which is 2, so pin 2. And if it reads 5 volts, it'll be high, and it'll assign it into value. If it reads 0 volts, it'll be low, and it'll be stored into value. So there we go. We've now written these lines of code, and we can now check off this bullet from our problem breakdown.